My family turned their backs on me when my cousin revealed that I assaulted her. 9 years later, they are trying to contact me again because she confessed it was just a dream. In 2014, when I was 22 and attending uni, I got a phone call from my mother that turned my life upside down. I remember I didn't answer at first because I was gaming with friends, but she called again immediately after the first call. This was an unwritten rule in the family. If you call twice like that, it's important. Like someone died important. So when she called again, I excused myself and answered, only to hear chaos at the other end. Like people were arguing. But when my mom realized I had answered, it sounded like she closed the door to another room. I just asked what was happening, and I heard her crying. My memory of this conversation is a bit blurry, but she asked me if I had something to confess to regarding Ella. Ella is my cousin on my mom's side and is 7 years younger than me, 15 at the time. At that point, I hadn't even seen Ella for several years. I just said no and asked what this is about. She just cried even harder and started accusing me of sexually assaulting Ella back when we were children. Ella had told everything to my sister, and my sister told my mother and aunt. Ella had told them that back when she was 9, and I was 16, she'd been playing in my room when I came in and started feeling her under her clothes and kissing her. My mother screamed at me to say something, but I couldn't even speak. It was all so absurd. I remember thinking that it must be some bad joke. The last thing I remember saying was that it's not true and that Ella is lying. But then my mom says how Ella gave such a detailed description of where and how. Then she kept asking something like, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" I screamed back at her, "No." Each time, it all ended with my mom putting me on speaker and both my mom and dad saying that they didn't want anything to do with me, and never to contact them again. Two of my sisters texted me later that day, pretty much saying that I was disgusting, and then blocked me. I know it's weird, but after that call, I went to take a long shower. To this day, I still don't know why I did that. After calming down, I started calling and texting everyone. Even Ella. No one answered, and the ones who hadn't blocked my number by then quickly did so. The only thing I heard back was from my father, who texted me to stop contacting them and told me they needed to heal. That was 9 years ago, and I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that day. To say this messed me up is an understatement. I was living in a haze for weeks after that and hardly ate at all. It didn't help that this was right before I was supposed to defend my bachelor's thesis, and I was already stressed out. Luckily, my co-writer sensed something was up and saved me by controlling the conversation so that I could get the easy parts. Without him, I am sure I would have failed. No one came to my graduation. Then started the worst period of my life. I spent the first year expecting the cops to knock on my door and arrest me for intimate abuse. I didn't land any jobs. I just lived off my saved money. I drank a lot and did oxy. I also grew resentful and violent. The only reason I didn't hurt anyone was because no one was around. My neighbor called the cops on me once after I had smashed a glass, but I managed to convince the officers that I had just dropped it, and they went away since there were no others inside my apartment. Instead of sleeping, I spent my nights planning how I could hurt Ella and make sure no one ever found out. Even thinking how I could do the things she'd accused me of, but much worse. I know. I'm not proud of that. I landed my first real job in my field in late 2015. Only then did things start to improve. I focused all my time on my job, as it gave me something normal to do. Recovery was a slow process, but I drank less and smiled more. I lived cheaply and earned good money, so I bought myself a nice gift for my birthdays. A VR headset, a motorcycle, and a Lego. And last year, I moved from my shitty apartment and bought a small house. It was an old dream of mine to have my garage and a garden to care for. This has boosted me even more. So my life is okay now. I still have problems. I've been on antidepressants for the last few years, and while they help, it's not in a happy way. They simply remove the dark thoughts and replace them with dead ones. My trust in other people is close to non-existent. I've tried dating but have only been on 2 dates with 2 different women. It's really hard to speak like a normal person when it comes down to it. And what would I tell a potential partner when she asks about my family? Oh, you know they accused me of a heinous crime, and we're not talking anymore. But I didn't do it, I swear. My field is very male-dominated, so the only woman I speak to is my therapist, who I like a lot. A few days ago, I received a text from my mother. It felt unreal, and I was scared to open it at first, so I just stared at the notification for hours before opening it. Yesterday, another text followed. Translated, they say, "Hi, my name, it's been so long since we talked. We miss you and want to know how you're doing." Here, she writes a long text about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are getting big. I didn't even know I was an uncle. Know that we love you and always will. Mom and dad text too. "Hi, my name, we understand if you don't want to talk to us after what happened, but please listen. Last month, your subject was brought up at a family gathering. During this time, Ella downplays everything that has happened to her. It got so awkward that she finally admitted that nothing happened and that she probably just dreamt it. We were all appalled by this. When we last spoke, we wanted to protect Ella and did only what we thought we could do. We know that's not excusing how you were treated. What Ella did was wrong, and we were all angry at her. We have called everyone that knew and told them the truth. We all want to speak with you, and your sisters want you to meet their families. Please write back if you can find it to forgive us." That's my situation right now. I haven't answered, but they no doubt know I've seen it. I'm seething. So many old, crappy memories are now stirring again. I don't want to forgive them and wouldn't trust myself to be in the same room as them. Part of me wants to call my family and unleash everything on them, to guilt them with everything I went through until they all hit rock bottom. Then, I dedicated my life to making my cousin's life as miserable as possible. The other part wants to ignore them and continue my okay-ish life with my motorcycle and garden to keep me company. I don't have any friends. My coworkers are the only people I speak to, but we're not close. So please, where can you go from here? Do I ignore them and continue as is? As embarrassing as it may sound, I've dreamed about the day when they apologize to me, throwing themselves to the ground and kissing my feet.